Hey friends, welcome to Sasser House. My name is Emily Ann and I am so glad you are here. Today we are having a big old 4th of July shindig with our friends and we want to take you along for all that we're doing. We're going to be cooking all kinds of yummy stuff and hopefully this will give you some ideas for your 4th of July cookout or any summer cookout you've got coming up. And we'll be decorating the table using some stuff from our landscaping and doing some simple little things to make it just a fun and festive little get together. All right, it is 9 a.m. and I need to get out into the garden and out into our landscaping to pick some flowers and get some zucchini and peppers and green beans that we'll be cooking up today. We planted a bunch of stuff from seed this year, so our garden is just now bringing some fruit in for us to enjoy. We've got a bunch of tomatoes on the vine, but they are all green. They are nowhere near ready. I'll give you a peek at them though. I mean, these things are loaded down and I could not be more excited. We grew those from seed this year, and this was my first year starting plants indoor from seed. And I honestly didn't have high expectations. I wanted to just give it a shot and see if I could do it, but I'd kind of told myself that I would probably fail because we didn't spend a lot of money on like grow lights and stuff like that, but it all worked out. So we're out here and we need to get a zucchini. We've got one right here that I've been letting grow. I don't think we have any more that are ready to harvest, but we've got a couple plants that have quite a few zucchini on them, so that is good and reassuring. And then right over here, I do want to show you this real quick because I'm so excited about it. This is a new variety of zucchini that I'm growing this year, and this is the first one that has started to grow, and I'm so excited about it. It's absolutely beautiful. It's called a green stripe cushaw squash, I think. I don't know how to say it, but it's going to be really pretty. All right, and then we are going to do a smoked queso today out on our smoker, and I need some peppers for that. So we're going to get us some jalapenos and some of our Santa Fe Grande peppers. And I wanted to give my first harvest to my sister, and she said these were delish. So I can't wait to try them. I think that's all the peppers we need because we don't want this to get too crazy spicy. I'm trying to think of what else we need. Green beans. All right. I get out here and I just start looking around and lose all train of thought. So I'm gonna grab some green beans and we should have a pretty decent harvest of beans. I'm so thrilled with that little harvest. There was a lot more out there than I thought there were. And I'm like, whew, I should have come out here earlier because it's hot. Then one of the other things I wanna grab are our hydrangeas. So these looked a lot better a couple weeks ago. And in my mind, when I was planning out my little table for this get together, I thought, okay, I'll use my hydrangeas because they're free and I've got them right here in my yard. Well, they don't look so good anymore. But the good thing is with hydrangeas, I feel like even when they're a little crusty, you can still make them beautiful. All right, that is a wonderful little harvest that we got. I love being able to get stuff from my yard to bring inside and make my inside just as pretty. Okay, so we have to, I think, first do our flower arrangement. I'm gonna go ahead and get the zucchini in the sink because it's so dirty. These flowers have seen better days. So I wanna go ahead and get them in water so that they're not sitting out. I don't want them to look wilty. A sweet friend gave me this little vase and it has a lid for it, but she also gave me this. And I haven't been able to ask her. I don't know if that's what that's for or if this is something else. But I thought maybe this went here and then that held your little flower stems. All right, I've got some water in our little vase. Oh, I made a mess. I always make a mess. We bought some roses yesterday from Walmart for this arrangement. I'm gonna go ahead and pull most of the leaves off of here and snip these and just place them in there. I think that that is what that little thing is for. If it's not, it should be. Because I think that's pretty smart. And now we'll do our hydrangeas. And I think I want to leave, well, I was going to say I want to leave some of those leaves in there. But I think I might have to cut them. And see, that's not going to touch that water. So we might have to fill the water up a little bit more. We'll see. Hold on. There we go. That's going down in there now. There we go. Now it's touching the water. If you have rose bushes or hydrangeas or peonies or anything like that planted out in your flower bed, you can always use what you have to make a pretty arrangement. All right, I'm gonna clean up my mess here. We'll clean up these counters before we start cooking. But I need to put a little bit more water in the vase, but it looks beautiful. And I think I'll be able to just kind of pick this up because all the flowers are right in here. This is incredible. I'm gonna look on Amazon to see if this is like a normal thing, because if your water gets dirty, you can just change the water and keep your arrangement perfect. I love this thing. All right, I'm gonna fill this up. All right, I'm gonna clean up our countertops. Ever since we got the new kitchen and we have these, I think they're quartz countertops, they tell you the best thing to wipe down your countertops with is just diluted Dawn dish soap and water, which I prefer because then I don't have all kinds of crazy, yucky chemicals on my countertop, especially when I'm using my counters for baking. All right, we're gonna move our KitchenAid mixer over, and I'm gonna get my dough hook. And the first thing we need to make are buns for our barbecue sandwiches. And I wanna get these going as early as we can so that I'm not waiting on bread to rise and all that stuff. It'll all be done before everybody gets here. Okay, so I'm using a different recipe this time, and it calls for mashed potatoes. I love having these instant mashed potatoes on hand because they just make life so easy. So that's what we're going to use to make these potatoes. We're just going to follow the instructions on the back. So we need 1/4 cup of milk, and then 3/4 cup water. I've done this before with just all water when I haven't had milk on hand, and it works out just as good. So I'm gonna get this in the microwave. We wanna get it to where it's kind of like boiling, and then we'll add our potatoes in. All right, so this is nice and hot out of the microwave. I'm gonna add in about a tablespoon of butter, and then we need to add in 1/2 cup of our dry potatoes. And then I just stir them to get all of those little potatoes moistened by our liquid mixture. And then I let them sit, and then we'll fluff them again in a second. All right, so now I'm gonna measure out 1/2 cup of these mashed potatoes. So there's 1/4 cup. And then we'll just save the extra in the fridge. I don't know if you knew you could do this, but I'm gonna add just a little bit extra in there because potatoes make bread so good. So I learned from my grandmother, she always saved mashed potatoes, even if she literally had like that much left. And she ate like a bird. So it didn't take a whole lot to fill her up. But she would save her mashed potatoes, and then she would turn those mashed potatoes into potato soup. And that is a great way to use leftover mashed potatoes if you don't want more plain old mashed potatoes. So I always like to try and save my mashed potatoes, and it makes me think about her. So we'll put those in the fridge. But then to these mashed potatoes, I'm going to measure out just 1/2 cup of water. And I'm just going to do it right here in this potato water because that'll add good starch to our bread. Okay, so we have half a cup mashed potatoes, half a cup water, and I'll link this recipe down below. We're going to add in a tablespoon of honey. I'm just going to eyeball it because honey is very sticky. And then we need 2 tablespoons of oil. I'm using grapeseed oil because that's what I like to buy, but you can use vegetable or canola oil or whatever neutral oil you like to bake with. All right, I'm going to let this combine. We didn't need to let that go for too long. And now, since those potatoes were hot, I want to make sure that our mixture isn't too warm because you don't want to kill your yeast. It seems like it is all over the place. I don't think those mashed potatoes got blended up good enough. It probably would have made more sense to use my paddle attachment to mix this mixture and then added the dough hook, but I didn't want to messy up 2 attachments. There we go. Now that that is all combined, I'm getting a better reading, and it is right at 101, which is perfect. So now I'm going to add in 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. So there's 1, 2, 1/4. I'm going to stir this with my little fork too, just to make sure all those little granules get moistened. And now we're going to let this sit for 5 minutes to proof. And we'll clean up our mess. Now I do want to try and multitask just a little bit. So while our bread is proofing, I'm going to wash up some of these veggies. And we'll just get them laid out on a towel to dry off. That is a big old harvest of green beans. I'm so thankful. All right, this has puffed up quite a bit, and I see some bubbles in the top of it. And so I forgot to add our salt, so I'm going to add that in now. We need 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to do half of our flour. We need 1 1/2 cups total. So we're going to start with 3/4 cup of flour and let that knead. And just using this little knife, I'm going to go through and scrape the sides just to make sure all of that gets incorporated. All right. Now we're going to add in the rest of our flour. And we're looking for this to pull away from the sides of the bowl, but we still want it to be really soft. Okay, so as you can see here, it's pulled away from the sides of the bowl. It's still sticking on the bottom. And the recipe said you wanted it to be sticky, which it is slightly sticky, but not like unbearably sticky. So we're gonna stop the kneading process by the machine at least. I'm gonna get my hand just slightly damp, and that helps the dough not stick to your fingers. And we're gonna get this dough out onto a lightly floured counter. Oh, it is so soft. I use a cinnamon roll recipe that uses mashed potatoes in the dough, and it makes the softest bread and the softest bread dough. Like when you're used to working with just normal bread dough and then you start working with potatoes in the bread dough, it is like pillowy soft. I'm gonna try to get all that off my fingers. And we're gonna come in here and just lightly knead this for about a minute. We don't want to incorporate too much flour, so we want that dough to stay nice and soft. That is such a beautiful soft dough. All right, we're going to grease up a bowl and put that in there and let it rise for about an hour. So the next thing we need to do is make our pie dough. So I'm trying to get the doughs done first. We are making an adorable little berry slab pie. And y'all are just going to die when you see how cute this is. Well, we'll see if mine turns out cute. The one online looks so cute. But I'm trying to get all of my doughs or anything that needs to sit for a while to either proof, or like this pie dough needs to chill in the fridge for, I think, 2 hours. I'm trying to get that done first. So I'm using a recipe from this Southern Baked cookbook. I'll put it down below for our pie dough. This makes enough dough for one single 9-inch pie crust. We're going to do a slab pie, which is going to be on a baking sheet. And then I want to do some little star cutouts on the top. So I think we are going to need 2 pie crusts for the base layer and then 1 for the top, which is probably overdoing it a little bit, but I'd rather have more than not enough. So I need to triple her recipe. And like I said, I'll put all this down below, but I'm going to get all of my ingredients that I need out and ready. So I think what I might actually do is just make one giant pie dough. And then I'll use the extras that we don't use on the base to cut my little stars out with that I'm going to put on the top. So I'm just going to do it all in this bowl. Okay, so we need 1 1/4 cups all-purpose flour. I'm using this 1/4 cup measuring cup because I don't want to dirty up any more dishes. So if you're tripling this like me, and like I said, I'll put the recipe down below for this slab pie, but you would need 3 3/4 cup all-purpose flour. So we've got that in there. Now we need 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon sugar, oh, but I'm tripling this. I'm losing my mind. So we would need 1 1/2 teaspoons salt and 1 1/2 teaspoons sugar. I was thinking to myself, that's not a lot of sugar and salt for all that flour. All right, I'm just going to combine this with a fork. And now we need to cut 3 sticks of butter into itty bitty cubes. Now, I don't have a pastry cutter to cut the butter in. Whenever I make biscuits, I freeze my butter and then I grate it. And that seems to be the easiest way to do it. But I don't know if you can do that with pie. So I'm just going to cut it into cubes and I'm going to use my fingers. Now you do have to make quick work of bringing all of this together when you're making pie crust because you don't want that butter to melt. You want it all to stay really cold. All right, so now I'm just going to go in with my fingers and I'm going to work this butter into the flour. And I'm just kind of rubbing it together with the flour. And we want it to look like a coarse ground cornmeal, is what her recipe says. So we'll be doing this for a minute. I've also made pie crust when I've made smaller batches in a food processor. I've only got a little bitty food processor. And that is probably the easiest, quickest way to make pie crust. I really enjoy doing it that way. But my little food processor's tiny. I really want to get me a food processor, like a full-size, nice food processor this year for maybe my birthday or Christmas. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just kind of pressing it into sheets with that flour coating all sides of that butter and just breaking down that butter into the flour. Okay, so there's still some pretty decent chunks of flour in here, but for the most part, they all break apart when I touch them, so I think we've gotten it to a really good consistency. So now we want to add in 1/4 cup of cold water, which in our case will end up doing 3/4 cup. But I'm just going to do this kind of in sections just to not make a mess. All right, and we're just gonna work this together until it starts to come together. I smell that butter in there. All right, so this is starting to come together, but I think it needs a little bit more water. Probably added maybe a tablespoon to 1/2 tablespoon more. Definitely don't want to add too much because you can always add more, but you can't take away. All right, that's starting to come together a little bit better. All right, I'm going to turn this out onto the counter. And we want to work this into a disc. This is a lot of pie dough. I'll get just a little bit of flour. I will be rolling this out in a rectangular shape. So instead of forming it into a disc, like what the recipe says to do, I'm going to form it into a little rectangle for it to chill in the fridge. That way, when we go to roll it out, it's already kind of pre-shaped for us. Now we're just going to get some plastic wrap to wrap this up in real tightly. That is a heavy slab of pie dough. I'm going to get this into the fridge to chill for a little bit, and we will move on to our next project. I think what I'm going to do next is make the filling for our slab pie. That way it can chill in the fridge as well. It'll be a cold pie, so we can make it whenever. And that way I can check off one whole thing, and that'll feel good to get that checked off. I don't know about y'all, but when I'm working in the kitchen, and especially on a big day like today where we've got a big menu to cook, it feels so good to check things off the list one by one and actually know that you're making progress. So I think that's what we'll do next. All right, so our slab pie has a layer of like a yummy creamy filling, and then it has our fruit. And I have never had a pie like this before in my whole life. It sounded so good. And I'll link the original recipe. I got it online. It's a Pillsbury recipe. And so you can use a pre-made pie crust. You don't have to do homemade. I just enjoy doing homemade. Okay, I washed up our bowl, and I'm going to use this beater attachment. And we have 2 blocks of cream cheese that we're going to add to this. And their recipe called for, what's it called? Lemon yogurt. I thought that sounded very good. I love lemon and fruit together, but I was afraid that my husband wouldn't like it, and not everybody is a big lemon fan. So I'm going to kind of meet in the middle, and I have some lemons over here, and I'm just going to do lemon zest into this mixture with vanilla yogurt instead of lemon yogurt. But if you like lemon, absolutely do your thing. What I'll probably do is I'll write out my recipe for this, and then I'll also link the one that I found online in case you want to see the original. All right, so we've got our cream cheese in here, and we're just going to whip this up until it's nice and creamy. All right, so that is whipped up pretty good. I'm going to scrape down the sides and let it go just one more time. Now we're going to add in 2 containers of yogurt. This is my favorite yogurt ever. I don't buy it often because we travel so much and I feel like sometimes I come home and it's gone bad. But it's this Too Good, and the vanilla is delish. So this is a 5-ounce container of yogurt, and we're going to use 2 of these. So you can use whatever yogurt you want. This might even be really yummy with like a strawberry yogurt. They used a lemon yogurt in the original recipe. I mean, you could do whatever you and your family wanted, but I thought that I would just stick with vanilla. And the recipe didn't call for vanilla extract, but I love it, and especially since we're using vanilla yogurt, I'm going to add in just a little bit of vanilla extract. And we'll whip this up. So that has whipped up so beautiful. Okay, and this has no sweetener in it, so I want to taste it and make sure that it's sweet enough. The berries will be sweet, and the mixture that we make with them will be sweet. So this doesn't have to be super sweet, but I don't want it to be not sweet. I don't want it to be like tangy, like cream cheese, you know? That is very good, but it is not sweet. So really the only sweetener in it is in the yogurt. I'm going to add just a little bit of sugar. It's a 4th of July celebration. We need some sugar. I think that we'll like that better with a little bit of sugar anyways. And I also want to zest up some lemon and get some lemon zest in there too. All right, I'm going to start with just 1 tablespoon of sugar. And I'm just going to eyeball this and do it right over the bowl. Okay, I have a feeling that this is going to be much better just with those 2 little additions. Plus that lemon is just going to add a nice little fresh hint of lemon without being lemon flavored with the lemon yogurt. Okay, I'm just going to try it right off of this. How is that already so much better? The consistency of this is just beautiful. So now that that's done, I don't think I need to use my KitchenAid for anything else today. So I'm just going to pop the lid onto my bowl, and I'll put that into the refrigerator to chill. All right, please excuse the messy kitchen. We'll start tidying up here in a minute. I'm wanting to clean as I go. I'm not really trying to yet, but I'm wanting to. So for our berries, for our slab pie, we're going to do a combination of strawberries, blackberries, and blueberries. These are some blueberries that I picked last summer at my friend Ivy's house, and I have had them in the freezer. These are the best blueberries ever. And I'm amazed at how well blueberries freeze. I have these in the freezer for almost a year now, and I use them for smoothies and stuff like that, but you can use them frozen, or if you want to thaw them. I didn't want them to be frozen on our pie, so I went ahead and thawed them, and I just put a little paper towel in there to help soak up any little juices that we might have. Look how beautiful that color is. And so these have been thawing overnight, and I think I measured out 2 cups of blueberries, at least 1.5 cups. So our blueberries were washed before they were put in the freezer. We don't need to wash those, but I do want to wash up our strawberries and blackberries that we got at the store yesterday. I want to save some of these strawberries out for a strawberry lemonade that we're making. I thought it would be pretty to garnish our strawberry lemonade with some fresh strawberries. So there's a couple little spots on some of these strawberries that don't look good. Oh, see, that's not good all the way to the core. I don't know if we can use any of that. It's so hard when you go to the supermarket, I feel like, to find good strawberries. I always have to turn the little container upside down to see if they're moldy. Because sometimes I feel like you just never know what you're going to get. So I'm just going to cut these up into little slices. And I'm going to save all of our scraps for our compost. Oh, I'll have to look up if chickens can eat strawberries. I don't know if they can. But if they can, I could give all the scraps as a little treat. I absolutely love all of the colors of summer. All the colors that come out of the garden and all the fruits and veggies. I just think that it is one of the most beautiful times of year. And cutting up these strawberries and seeing them against the beautiful blue of the blueberries, it just feels like summertime. All right, so now I'm going to add in our blackberries. And you can add raspberries to this too. Chris doesn't love raspberries, so we left them out. Now we're veering off of the recipe a little bit again here. There we go. I canned up some strawberry jam last summer. It smells so good. And as you can see, I didn't follow the instructions perfectly. When you can stuff, you really need to follow everything to a T. And I did not, because I had some more strawberries than what the recipe called for in comparison to like the jam part, if that makes sense, like the pectin and the sugariness. And so whenever I canned this stuff, it separated, and I thought that I had ruined it, but I looked it up. It's totally fine. You can see once you open up the jar, you stir all that up, and it comes out perfect. And it won't separate again. It just doesn't look as pretty for a gift or on your pantry shelf. So I learned that the hard way. But what we're going to do for our slab pie, the recipe calls for strawberry sauce that you buy in a little container at the store. And I just didn't want to do that because I knew I had this jam. So we're going to use strawberry jam instead. And I'm going to taste this just because I can't resist. So yum. Okay. I'm going to pour this strawberry jam right over all of our fruit. And I'm going to gently stir our fruit to coat it in that jam. And I didn't know if we would need that whole container or not, and I don't think we do. I think that that looks plenty saturated, and that will save some leftover strawberry jam for me and Chris this week. So some of our strawberries that we cut are still sticking together, but I'll pull those apart whenever we put it onto the pie. But now we have got our berry mixture, our cream mixture, and our pie crust in the fridge. I'm going to cover this with some plastic wrap and let it sit, and we'll assemble it closer to the party. All right, so our bread has risen and it looks absolutely beautiful. It's so soft. Oh my goodness. So what we're going to do, oh my goodness, it's so soft I can't get over it. I'm going to add just a little bit of flour to my hands and my workspace. And we need to separate this into 6 buns. So I think I'm going to divide it into 3 even sections. So one definitely could use a little more. And then divide that into 3. And we're just going to shape our buns. We're going to pull them out and then tuck the centers in. And I like to just roll them on the counter, kind of like how I make dinner rolls, and then just gently pull them out ever so slightly so that they're not like a big domed thick bun. I'm really interested to see how this recipe bakes up and tastes, because my buns, I feel like whenever I make any type of hamburger bun or hoagie buns, don't do it as bad on me, but the recipes are always different. I feel like hamburger buns especially always turn out just like a thick white bread. And it's never like a pillowy, soft hamburger bun like what you get when you go out to a restaurant. And that's what I want, is that yummy, soft hamburger bun. So I'm really excited to see how these do. So we're just shaping these. Mine did not turn out all the same size, but that's okay. We're gonna let these rest again for 30 minutes. I'm gonna cover them up with another sheet of plastic. Set them aside, and then we'll get them in the oven to bake. Well, I've already got my countertop floured. I set out some pizza dough last night for me and Chris to have for lunch today, because I knew we'd want something quick and easy since we'd be doing all this other cooking. I didn't have anything else prepared. So I'm going to make our lunch, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to turn y'all over to Chris so that he can show you how he prepared our pork butt for today's dinner.
Hey y'all, Emily has tasked me with making the pork butt today. So I've got everything ready, and I've got about a 10-pound pork butt in my prep tub, and I've already patted it dry. And so now I'm just going to get it all seasoned up to go on the smoker. And so I'm going to start with just some French's mustard, and I've got it upside down, so I'm going to start with the bottom first. And so I will start by just squirting some mustard on here. And I really don't like mustard at all, but you don't taste this at all whenever the meat is all smoked. This is basically just a binder to help hold all of your seasoning onto the meat. And then next I'm going to use this called Pork Perfect pork rub. I am going to just lather this up with a good amount of seasoning. And this is a big piece of meat, so you need quite a bit more seasoning than you would think. I love these prep tubs that I'm using today. If you need a gift for your husband or for your father, any man in your life, and they like grilling or smoking meats or anything, these prep tubs are amazing because they serve as a cutting board. They also, all of your seasoning for the most part goes down in the tub, so you can just carry it inside and rinse it out after you're done. So it makes cleanup way easier. They have a lid. So like I had this meat outside for a couple minutes while I was getting everything else set up, and it keeps the flies and stuff off. So I love these prep tubs. We'll link it down below if you guys are interested in that. I've got it all seasoned up, trying to keep the flies off of it, but we are now ready to put it over on the grill. And so I love using baking racks because it keeps you from having to touch the meat anymore. So if we need to rotate it when it's on the grill, I love having a baking rack so you can do it without touching the meat and getting your hands all dirty. So I'm gonna wash up and then I'm gonna get this on the grill. All right, so I'm cooking on a Pit Boss pellet smoker today, and I'm going to use the Pit Boss brand fruit blend pellets. So I'm gonna get those loaded up into the hopper. So I've got the grill heated up to 225 degrees, and I'm gonna go ahead and just put this on. Just for a little bit of extra smoke, I've got one of these smoke tubes that I'm going to light and put this in there with it. All right, got that going. And now we're gonna come back and check on it here in about 45 minutes. It has been another 45 minutes, and so I'm gonna spritz it down again. It does look a little bit dry, so that's why it's good to come out here and keep spritzing it down keep that meat from drying out. And the apple juice just adds so much flavor. I am gonna actually rotate it on that baking rack so I can get the other side sprayed too. Then we will let that go, and we'll check on it again in another 45 minutes. Okay, so it has been about 4.5 hours, and the pork butt has a nice crust on it, and I'm gonna go ahead and move it over now into an aluminum foil pan. So the reason that we're doing this, I'm not even taking an internal temp because I know this is not ready, but the crust is already done, and I don't want it to get any more dark than this or burnt. And so, but we still need it to cook for a little while. So I'm going to put it in this pan. Another reason why we do the pan is so it starts collecting all of those juices that come off of it, and we'll end up straining those at the end and then pouring that juice back over top of the meat, which will make this really, really moist and delicious. So I'm gonna spritz it one more time before we cover it up with the apple juice. All right, we are still sitting around 250 degrees. Our smoke tube is still rolling. And now we're gonna get this pork butt put on here. My Pit Boss grill has digital thermometers that can connect to the grill. So I'm gonna get 2 of those hooked up and put into the pork butt in different spots. That way I can monitor the temperature. All we have to do now is close it up, and we're gonna watch for it to get to about 205 degrees internal temp.
So I just got our buns out of the oven, and they look incredible. These are the best hamburger buns I think I've ever made, and they're so soft. And they're not too poofy on the top. I'm just really, really proud of them. I really think they'll be delish. I want to get better about my sizing because I don't have a food scale to measure if things are the same size. But that's something that I need to invest in and something I need to work on. So next, I'm gonna get our coleslaw made up. This is something that I love to have on a barbecue sandwich. Personally, Chris does not partake in it. I don't know if our friends will, but I just feel like you can't have barbecue without good coleslaw. I'm gonna go ahead and transfer this into the bowl that we'll be serving it in. And usually I like to buy just like a pre-made coleslaw mix. Ooh, my knives are so not sharp. That's something that we've got to work on. But I like to do a pre-shredded coleslaw mix, but I thought it would be fun to do it from scratch this time. So we cut off the bottom and then we cut it down the center. And now we're gonna quarter it. And this will help us get our little stem part down here removed. So now we just want to finely chop this. And then I'm just gonna do a rough chop that way. I know folks love cabbage and make all kinds of yummy stuff with it. We don't really cook with cabbage much because Chris doesn't eat it, but it's so affordable. It is so inexpensive. This is gonna make a big old bunch of coleslaw. I'm gonna give the last little bit of this cabbage to the chickens because there is no way we will eat all this coleslaw. I haven't even added the carrots in yet, so we will definitely give the chickens a little treat with it. All right, I washed up my carrots. I'm just gonna cut the tops off of them, and I'm gonna cut them into some smaller pieces. I just think that that makes it easier to shred. I ended up using 6 carrots, which I think will be a great ratio to our cabbage. I love the sweetness that carrots bring to a coleslaw. Now, if I was smart, I would have mixed up the dressing at the bottom of this bowl, and then I would have put my cabbage and carrots in. But I'm not always smart. So do as I say and not as I do. I am going to make up a simple little dressing for our coleslaw. I personally am not afraid of mayonnaise. If you are and you don't like a mayonnaise-y coleslaw, then don't make this coleslaw. I love mayonnaise. I love to do a barbecue sandwich with just some mayonnaise on it. Okay, judge me if you want to. But I love that. So I'm gonna mix up just a quick little dressing for this. And mine is mayonnaise, about a half a cup of mayonnaise, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice. And then we need 2 tablespoons of sugar, just like that. And then some salt and pepper. I would really love to get more adventurous when it comes to like my slaws and stuff, but I don't make them that often because I'm the only one who eats them. So I really only ever make slaw if we're having company and there's other folks that will eat it, because I can't make all this and eat it all, and I don't want it to go to waste. That smells so yum. I am thinking that we're gonna need a little bit more than this, but before I mix up another batch, we'll go ahead and pour this over and give it a good toss and see how far it takes us. I'm going to attempt to do this without making a massive mess, but that might be an impossibility. See, it always blows my mind. You've got this big old thing of coleslaw and that little thing of dressing, but that dressing goes so much farther than you think it's gonna. Okay, coleslaw's done. We're moving right along to our next recipe, which is our smoked queso. We're gonna have this as an appetizer and also munch on it with our barbecue. We absolutely love doing a smoked queso and could not recommend it enough if you've never done it. It's not quite time to make it though, because it's about 2 p.m. and it only takes about 2 hours to cook in the smoker. But I'm gonna go ahead and brown up some sausage to put into the queso. And Chris is going to go ahead and get everything in the aluminum pan. That way it'll be ready to go whenever it's time to throw it on the grill. So now I'm going to prep these peppers from the garden to put into the smoked queso as well. We also put rotel in there, so you can omit these peppers if you don't like real spicy stuff, but we think that it adds a really nice kick. The best way to get all the veins and seeds out is just using a little spoon and starting at the base and sliding it right up the pepper. And it takes all of those seeds and that inside part that is so spicy out. All right, we're gonna get these chopped up and Chris can get them in the queso. And then next we're just gonna cut up a little bit of onion to add into the queso too. Chris doesn't love onion, but he doesn't mind the taste. He just doesn't like the crunch of an onion. But this cooks down so soft on the smoker that you don't really know they're there as far as texture goes, but it adds such great flavor. And I'm just gonna do a half of one.
All right, my next task is to make the smoked queso. So I'm gonna put everything together. I'm gonna start with a whole block of pepper jack cheese, and I'm just going to basically break this up into some big cubes. All right, next I'm gonna put a can of diced tomatoes and green chilies. It's rotel. I have half of an onion that Emily diced up. All right, next we have 4 peppers that we got from our garden. You can use jalapenos or whatever kind of peppers that you want. Next, we're gonna do a whole can of black beans. Let's see. We're gonna do a whole stick of Velveeta cheese. All right, I'm just gonna break it up into some chunks. All right, now we are going to add some sausage that Emily has browned on the stove. Next, we're just going to do a splash of milk, and we'll just kind of eyeball it on that. We can always add more milk as it cooks. Okay, we're going to cover this up now, and then we'll put it on the smoker when it's closer to party time.
Now it's time to make our drinks for tonight, and I'm making 2 different delicious lemonades. I'm not a big punch girl, but I do love yummy lemonade. So the first one we're gonna make is a strawberry lemonade. All you need to make this is strawberries, water, lemon juice, and sugar. It really couldn't get any easier. So I've got some strawberries right here that I picked last summer at the strawberry patch, and they've been frozen. And I knew that I wanted to use them in this strawberry lemonade, so I went ahead and thawed them. That's why there's some juice in there. But if you're using fresh strawberries, then you probably won't have any liquid in yours. That's totally fine. But if you have frozen strawberries in the freezer, just thaw them, and then you can use them in this recipe. So I've got probably 1.5 cups of strawberries in here, and we're just going to get these all pureed really smooth. So once these are completely blended, it comes out to about 1 cup of blended strawberries. So now we need 4 cups of water, and I'm just gonna add this right into our pitcher. Now we're adding in 1 cup of sugar. And then to our strawberry puree, we're gonna add our lemon juice, and that is going to make it a little bit runnier so that we can put it through a sieve and get all of those seeds out. And all this does is thin out our strawberry mixture so that it runs through a sieve a lot easier. So I've got my little sieve right here, and I've got some cheesecloth, and I'm going to try and do this without making a monumental mess. This isn't going to keep all the seeds out, but it's going to keep majority of them out. And then we're just going to give it a really good stir to get all of that sugar dissolved and mixed in. All right, I want to give this a quick taste test and just make sure that it's not missing anything. This is the best lemonade. Oh, I love it so much. It's so good. You've got to try it. It's so easy and so delish. All right, so that's all that we do for our strawberry lemonade, and I'll show you a cute way to garnish it at the end. But we'll add ice into this pitcher, which will bulk it up quite a bit. But for now, I'm going to put it in the fridge, and we'll get started on our next one. For our second lemonade, we're going to do something that I had for the very first time at Disney just a couple weeks ago with Chris. They had some mocktails out one night, and they had a lavender lemonade. And I'm not a huge lavender fan. I love the smell, but I don't really like lavender flavor like in coffees or in pastries and stuff like that. But it was the only mocktail they had, so I said, well, I'll try it. It was knock your socks off. Delish. Literally that night, I ordered lavender syrup. So you can use this lavender syrup in coffee. You can use it in lemonade like we're doing. You can put it in teas. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. And I cannot recommend this lemonade enough. It is so good and so easy. So we're going to start this one the same way we did our other lemonade as far as the recipe goes, except without our strawberries. So we need 4 cups of water and 1.5 cups lemon juice. We're going to start with 4 cups of water, and I'm just going to eyeball it. It's about 3/4 of the way up this pitcher. We're going to add in our 1 cup of sugar. And then I only have a little bit of this bottled lemon juice left. Probably only had maybe 1/4 cup. So I'm going to add that in, but I have some fresh lemons right here. So I'm gonna roll those out on the counter and we'll get those juiced and added in. I probably need to get a better juicer, but I bought this little one, I think when I got my first apartment. And I don't juice lemons or oranges or anything that often. Really, the only time that I use fresh lemon juice is when I'm baking a cake or some type of pastry that calls for lemon juice. And so I really just don't use a juicer that often. But every time I do pull this little thing out, I think that it would be nice to have something a little bit better. This definitely does the trick. So 2 lemons got us quite a bit of lemon juice. And now we're just going to add this to our lemonade. So according to this, it says add 2 tablespoons per 12 ounces. This is a lot more than 12 ounces. But I think I've been experimenting ever since I had this at Disney. I think that 4 tablespoons is all that we need. And it adds the most beautiful color to the lemonade. All right, we're gonna give this a good stir. Get all that sugar mixed up at the bottom. All right, we're gonna do a little taste tester on this one too, just to make sure it's a good balance of flavors. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I'm not trying to be drama. You know when you watch like cooking shows or things online and people like take a bite of something, they're like, it's the best thing I've ever had. I'm not trying to be drama. Ooh, I'm making a mess. This is delish. It's so good. I think that it could use even 1 more tablespoon of the lavender. It's there, but I want to taste it just a little bit more. So I'm going to add 1 more, just 1 more drop. All right, we are making pretty good time. It's time for me to roll out our pie crust. And then after that, I think it might just be cleaning time. And then I need to cut up all the veggies for the veggie skewers and then decorate the table. And it is 3 o'clock right now and our friends get here at 5:30. So we got 2.5 hours. This doesn't have to bake for that long, but it will take some time to roll it out and get it the way we want it and pretty. So that's why we're gonna go ahead and do that next, get that done with, and then we might be able to take a little breather for a minute. All right, so we're unwrapping our pie dough. And this has been in the fridge for quite a while. This is gonna take a little bit of time to roll out. I found the best way to roll out pie dough is to start in the middle and work your way outwards and go all different directions, like the directions that you're wanting it to go. So right now I'm wanting it to be a rectangle. So I start in the middle and go that way, start in the middle and go this way, and then I'll go up and down. All right, so I'm gonna set this down and see. I think we need to roll it out a little bit more. Looking at this pie crust, I think I added a little bit too much water because it is sticky, and pie crust should not be sticky like that. So just right here, especially around the edges, I'll add a little bit of flour in and pray that when I try to roll this out onto our baking sheet, it doesn't just rip into a million pieces. I guess thankfully the bottom crust is going to be completely covered up, but the edges I want to be able to crinkle and shape the way you would pie dough. So what I'm going to do here is just start on this end, and I'm slowly going to roll this up the way it's rolled, you know, when you buy from like Pillsbury. I'm just going to gently roll it, and then that way we can unroll it on our baking sheet. I am going to put some more flour down. That way it doesn't stick to itself. I really hope this bakes up good because it was so cute in the picture. And I want it to be cute for our party. Like I said, pies are not something that I have mastered yet. I love to do cakes and cupcakes and stuff like that. But I have not mastered the art of pie. So I've got our pan all floured up. And I'm going to pray that I can unroll this pie dough. Without it just being a sticky mess. And I'm afraid it's going to be a sticky mess. Here we go. It's unrolling a little. There we go. Okay, out of all the pie doughs I have ever made, I don't think I've had one that has been this much of a sticky mess. So we will see how it bakes up. So I want to make sure I have enough overhang to crimp our edges. I'm just going to make sure that it's all pressed down onto the pan. So now I'm just going to go through and trim off this excess. I want to leave enough to crimp these edges if I can. I'm going to use this excess pie dough for decoration on the top. So I'm just going through and tucking all of this excess dough under. And now I'm going to attempt to crimp it. Okay, I was able to somewhat get it shaped. I've got to learn how to do those cute little crinkled edges that people do on a pie. I guess I just got to start practicing. But I'm coming through with my little fork and poking holes all at the bottom of this, and we're going to get this into the oven to bake. So I really wanted to put some stars on the top of our little slab pie that we're making, but I don't have any stars. Only thing I have is little butterflies, and I think that'll be adorable. And that'll be better than nothing on top. So I'm going to roll out this pie dough that was left over.
Okay, so I had to put the queso into a bigger pan. It was just going to be way too hard to mix it all up with how much that we had. And so I have the queso here. I'm going to give it a stir and see if we need to add any more milk. All right, so it's still trying to get melted. I'm not going to add any more milk yet. We'll let this cheese cook down, and then we'll see if we need to add anything here in just a little bit.
So our pie crusts are in the oven baking, and they're in the Lord's hands now. There's nothing we can do about them. So hopefully that turns out. So I have these cute little votives and these hurricane glass little candle holders that we're going to make a homemade mosquito repellent out of that's also going to be a beautiful part of our centerpiece. So first thing we're going to do is fill these up with water. Once those are both filled up with water, then it's time to go in with essential oils. So there's all different kinds of essential oils you can use for these, and I read this in a magazine, and I have been so excited to give it a try, and I knew this party would be the perfect time to give it a try. But I'll list the whole recipe to make this DIY mosquito repellent, and you can make it however you want to make it. But you can do a mix of all different kinds of essential oils. I'm going to do some lavender and eucalyptus and peppermint. All right, I'm going to slide these out of the way. And now we're going to cut up some lemon to add in there as well. And I'm gonna do decent sized slices since it'll be floating around in the big vase. Now we're just gonna add in our lemon slices. And then you could use rosemary, mint, whatever herbs you have. I have some thyme right here. So I'm going to put some sprigs of thyme right into the vases, just to add some nice color as well. The last step for these is to add a little floating candle, but I'm gonna wait until we put these on our table so that the wick doesn't get wet and we can light it when it's time to eat supper.
For the next recipe we're going to make, it's going to be grilled veggie skewers. So what you're going to need is a red bell pepper, an orange bell pepper, and a yellow bell pepper. And then you need a red onion and a zucchini. So I'm going to start by just getting these all chopped up. And when we're cutting these, we're just trying to chop them in some good bite-size pieces that are going to go onto our skewers. And I've got the skewers soaking in a pan, that way they don't catch on fire. You can use whatever veggies you want, but these colors go really well together and they look really, really pretty once they're on the skewers. So getting as many different colors is such a good option. I don't even really eat vegetables, so I'm not going to eat these, but I know that Emily's going to love them and our guests will love them. And so I am in charge of making them because it has to do with the grill. After getting them all sliced up into pieces, I'm just putting them onto the skewers and I'm alternating different colors just to make them nice and pretty. I'm only making one of these skewers for each person because since we have so many different food options and snacks, I think that that will be plenty for our party. Next, I'm going to take grapeseed oil, pour it over the skewers, and make sure that they all get a coating of that, so I'll roll them around in it. Next, I'm going to take this garlic butter seasoning and sprinkle that all over them as well. And then I will end up rolling them around in that seasoning and that oil and make sure that they all get a generous coating on each skewer. Then we're going to put these on the grill at about 300, and it should only take about 10 or 15 minutes until these veggies get soft. Right before putting those veggie skewers on, I did stir up the queso, and I think that it is done. So I went ahead and took that off of the grill, took it inside, and put it into a little bit prettier of a dish. That way people weren't scooping it out of the metal tin. And after I got it into a dish, I did realize a little bit later that it needed a little more milk. But since I had it out, I had to go ahead and give it a try and make sure that it was good. And it was delicious. I love a smoky queso. It was so good.
All right, we are getting down to the nitty gritty. Our pie crust didn't turn out that beautiful. But it'll be okay. It'll taste good. I have so much to learn when it comes to pie, y'all. One day I'll learn. So we have our slab pie and all of our fixins. All we gotta do is assemble it, and this couldn't be any easier because we just have to slather this stuff on. So our first layer is our cream mixture. I don't know how to keep my pie crust from like shrinking in when I bake them. If you know how to keep that from happening, please let me know down below, because mine always shrink in. Okay, now for our fruit. This has released a lot of liquid while it's been soaking, which is fine by me, but I don't want our pie to look too wet and liquidy. So I got a little slotted spoon just in case it's really wet. The fruit seriously does all the decorating for you on this dessert. Y'all, I could not be more thrilled with how this turned out with my crusty edges and all. It looks kind of rustic, but it's cute. I'm just going to come in here with these little butterflies and press those in to our pie.
Okay, it has been about 8.5 hours. And our pork butt is about up to temperature, or it is up to temperature, which is 205 degrees. But now, yep, So it's right at 206 or so, a little hotter in some spots. But now that it's at least 205 degrees, I'm just basically probing it in all different areas and making sure that it's nice and tender. So you want to just take a meat probe or a thermometer and kind of just poke it and make sure that it feels like that meat is nice and soft and really, really tender. And everywhere that I put it, that part's a little tight there, but for the most part, it's just smooth as butter, which means it's going to fall off the bone perfect. So I think that this is ready for us to pull off the grill. It is falling apart before I can even get it over to the platter, and it is so tender and juicy. All right, let's just get rid of this bone here. And that's how you know that it was cooked really good. All right, let's get the rest of the meat over to the platter. All right, and I'm using my little bear claws just to shred the meat up.
Okay, we are finally to decorating our table, and we thought it would be fun to move our table outside on our patio. We're about to redo our patio, but for now, we're still making the most of the space that we got. And so we have this little table runner that I got on Amazon, and I'm gonna start with that in the middle of our table. Then I crocheted these little stars, and I think that they are so cute. And so I'm just gonna lay them out on the table. I wanted to have 5 of them, but I ran out of time, and I only have 4 of them. But these are so cute and fun, and we'll put those out on the table as well. And then we've got our beautiful little arrangement that we made. I'm gonna put that in the middle of the table. And I almost forgot, yesterday when I went to the Dollar Tree, I found these little glitter star picks. I'm gonna put those in the center too. And now we have our little mosquito repellents. Those look so beautiful. I love those so much. And they smell so good. I wondered when I first heard about these if you'd actually be able to smell all those essential oils, and you can. They smell wonderful. And now we're gonna add in our little floating candles. And now I'm just gonna light these, and we'll have homemade, natural, and beautiful mosquito repellent. I ended up finishing out the table with our everyday white dishes because those are the only dishes that we have. And then I added these little napkins that I got at Kroger of all places. They were half off, and I thought that they went with the table perfectly. I hope this video encourages you that you can use what you got on hand, and you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to have a beautiful table and party for your friends and family. We feel so blessed that the Lord has given us this home, and we love being able to host people and hopefully be a blessing to them. We sure love y'all, and we thank you so much for being here. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.